to GP Rotterdam. Riley Knight alongside the Pro Tour champion Simon Goertzen in the booth. A great pleasure to have you company. Thank you for sticking with us as we get our way through these intermittent technical difficulties. On your screen, it's still Chris Pikula versus Thomas Westling here. These guys looking to decide the future of their teams as we move towards the end of round number 6. Simon, not a whole lot has changed.
Yeah, but the games are still going on, and also the match between Jamie Park and John Hagland hasn't been decided yet. So we will get to catch the finale of this match.
Wayward Giant coming down in addition to this thriving Grubs here. So Pikula able to leverage his mana very efficiently and add to the board.
4/5 menace is not a bad card to have, but a 5/5 tiger is not a great creature to fight against in that spot.
No, Riparian Tiger I think has just impressed people all over the shop here. This tiger it slices and dices and does it all really. Huge body, very competitively priced. Priced to move this guy. Both the players with 4 energy in their energy reserves, and we see another Hunt the Week. I think this is about the 10th Hunt the Week that we've seen between these two players so far. Riparian Tiger goes up now to a 6/6, and it can attack for 8.
With 4 energy in reverse, he can actually activate it multiple times over the coming turn. So, if I were Chris, I would be a little bit concerned about this. Or actually, I would be hoping that Jamie wins his game.
That's, I think, your best out here if you're Chris Pikula, facing down this tiger, because it's quickly growing out of reach here. Here is the attack, and we're going to see the tiger slam in for 8, in addition to its companion there coming in for 3, the Wild Wanderer.
Once again, an aggressive decision by Thomas. He's been, I don't want to call it reckless, but he's been very aggressive when he had the chance, because now his tiger has already taken 4 damage from the Hunt the Week. So even though he gets to deal 5 points of trample here, he's not really closing out the game on the spot.
Yeah, so what have appeared as maybe a very confusing block there from Chris Pikula turned out to be obviously necessary to keep him his head above water, but also finished off the tiger thanks to the damage that had been done to it with the Hunt the Week.
Yeah. The fact that Westling has a Whirler Virtuoso to follow it up explains that how happy he is to bring his opponent down to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I could have easily seen waiting for 1 more turn. In fact, if you look at that board, he might have even wanted to attack with a Thriving Turtle the turn before.
Here's the Thopter. Westling has forgotten to pay his energy for that. And a takedown for Chris Pikula. Oh dear, look at that. Couldn't kill off the Thopter because it is, of course, a sorcery. So Westling renews the hopes for his team to manage to get through to round 6 with an X-1 record. It all comes down now to our final table C, between Jamie Park and John Hagland, and it's here is where we're going to go right now. The Angel of Invention has come down once again. The Anthem stapled to a Flying Vigilance Lifelink 2/1. Jamie Park has also got a Fabricate creature out of his own. Visionary.
It looks like Hagland is actually attacking for 2, 7, 10 damage, bringing Jamie down to 1. And this looks to me like a matchup of a white red aggressive deck against a black white mid range deck with super high card quality. So this has been the problem. Jamie had John down to 1 in game 2, or was it game 1? In the game that we saw, but the Angel of Invention took it over.
Just took it home for Team Rock and Roll in both situations here. John Hagland has a new favourite card, I imagine. He's just beaten Jamie Park and secured a victory for his team over some of the biggest names you're going to find in Magic, John Finkel included amongst them. As you see them all, they're exchanging words and thoughts at the end of the match. Looks like the most handsome man in Magic outside of a commentary booth, Joel Larson, has joined them there.
That's what happens when you beat John Finkel.
You get a congratulations.
Joel comes personally
and immediately says, congratulations, well done. There you go. Well, the moral victory may have been Finkel's, but the actual real victory was their opponent. So well done indeed to those 3 gentlemen on your screen. Westling, Heidenblatt and Hagland walk away with their heads held high. And for Pikula, Finkel and Jamie Park, those guys are going to have to dig deep, make sure they don't pick up another loss. Right now, however, It's time to head back in time a little bit. We've got a time walk match as on from our back table. This is a replay, my friends. We're happy to bring you more magic and as much of it as we can. And I tell you what, once again, we go from one huge name, we go to American, from American huge names to Asian and European huge names. Tomohiro Saito has joined Raphael Levy and Jeremy Desani, the Pro Tour champion Jeremy Desani, and the Hall of Famer Raphael Levy. And these guys are going to be battling hard to make sure they stay at X and O. So Dund Operative opening things up for the French Hall of Famer.
Saito is very flexible when it comes to these team events. He has no problem finding people to play with because he's so well connected, and we've seen him really enjoying these team tournaments.
And he's chosen very wisely in pairing himself with two titans of French magic. Of course, Raphael Levy, apart from being in the Hall of Fame, he is the French national champion this year. 21 GP top 8s and 3 Pro Tour top 8s, last one being in 2007. Jeremy Desani, people will remember that he won the Theros Pro Tour only a couple of years ago, and that's his only Pro Tour top 8. But he's also on the French team this year, winning the first WMCQ for France. And absolutely very, very talented player of the game.
These teams are at 5-0, so they haven't lost a match yet.
Well, yes, on the other side of the table, Alistair Martin, Dan Bernard and Min Nguyen, these guys as well have been around, all snagged some pro points here and there, looking still to make their big breakthrough to maybe a championship title of some kind.
Do you know where they're from?
It's not written in front of me, and maybe we can perhaps find that out. But right now, self-assembler coming down for Raphael Levy to join that Dund Operative, and Levy goes and finds himself another self-assembler.
His cards come in pairs, obviously.
Dund Operative number 1 in the bin. Dund Operative number 2 still alive and kicking. Weaponcraft Enthusiast comes down. I don't think I've seen a single 2-3 Weaponcraft Enthusiast.
Yeah, 3-mana 2-3 is below average, below what you want. Sometimes you play these cards in limited, but usually you want the servos to go with it. And on defense, it does almost the same job.
We'll see if the Weaponcraft Enthusiast is going to jump in the way of the self-assembler. No. Martin going to take 4 here. Levy with a follow-up play. What could it be? It's a self-assembler. How lucky. No third one for the Hall of Famer to search out here, it seems. 2 lands in hand. What looked like a tidy conclusion. And it's 5 mana and a tidy conclusion for Martin himself, taking care of that other self-assembler.
Yeah, making good use of the instant speed nature. Marionette Master in his hand as well.
Oh, jeez. It's going to be big.
But if you're playing against black-red, you can't make it huge. That would seem like a waste of resources. I don't think you would want to trade it for an unlicensed disintegration or a tidy conclusion.
No, that's right. You'd certainly want to gain a little bit more out of it here, but we'll see how Martin chooses to play it. Down comes the Marionette Master. Is it going to be a 1-3? Seems that way as we see 3 more servos enter the battlefield. So that they each do represent not only the 1 point of power they have coming across, but also an extra drain from the Marionette Master. Hidden line of text there on the Marionette Master says whenever an artifact creature, or whenever an artifact dies, of any kind I think, whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard.
Under your control.
Under your control from the battlefield. Get your opponent for 1. Not a bad little finishing move there from the Marionette Master. Tugging those strings this way and that. So it's back to Levy now to decide how he's going to navigate these choppy waters. Quite a few lands in hand and he ships. Martin with an army of servos here.
Levy has to be very aware of Inspire Charge because it could also pump the Marionette Master and increase the drain, the drain ability.
So Martin now attacks with 1, 2, 3, 4 servo tokens. A couple of black cards in his hand, so at the moment Levy doesn't have to play around an inspired charge.
Which he doesn't know, of course.
Rush of Vitality is going to target this servo here in order to eat up that Dund operative. But looks like the other servo token is going to bite the dust. Rush of Vitality, a card that is just so efficient for its stats. For its cost. +1/+0, indestructible, lifelink. It just does it all.
Levy is sitting on a removal spell, and he's now considering what to do with it.
In response, we see this tidy conclusion. So that's going to render that Rush of Vitality useless. It also saves the Dund operative. Marionette Master has something to say about the servo dying. It means Levy has lost 1 and now 2 life. And then takes a further 3. So, a bit of a complicated attack there. Does Martin have a follow-up play? So 2 cards in hand for him.
Mm-hmm. He's holding a Dund operative, but also, this is really nice. After combat,
essence extraction, yeah, very good to finish off that that self-assembler there.
And Levy already made the choice to kill the servo rather than, for example, the more threatening Marionette Master, because he wanted to keep his board presence, and of course he couldn't expect that Martin would kill another one of his creatures that easily. Really nice turns by both of these players. Good use of mana and resources.
Yeah, seemed like a pretty solid choice there for Levy to keep his Dund operative around, but his board looking a little bit weaker after the departure of the self-assembler. And now Salivating Gremlins joining the party as well. This guy just as a 2/3 gets pumped up to a 4/3 when an artifact enters the battlefield. Also gains trample, which is what has just happened here, but it's just going to be the Spirethopter in the air. The impact of a colorless flying haste card has really shaken things up.
It's a card you shouldn't forget.
Play against a green deck or a white deck, maybe you're not expecting many flyers or nothing with haste to come out of things, and then all of a sudden you're getting smacked for 3 in the air.
Haste, evasion, and no color requirements.
It can make things very unpredictable. Dund operative comes in. Salivating Gremlin's going to trade off with that. And now it's 4 mana for Martin as he plays an oval chase Daredevil. Card that you mentioned that you were quite impressed by, Zimon. Obviously a recursive threat, a 4/2 that comes back whenever an artifact enters play.
If you can find enough ways to return it, but also get extra uses out of it, it can easily be the best card in your deck. I've seen really, really nice interactions with it. Key to the City is just one of them.
Martin with 2 cards in hand, both of them white by my estimation. And now it's the Daredevil living up to its name and throwing itself into danger. Looks like the Dund operative is going to come and say something about that.
And this is exactly the problem. Imagine Martin just has a Prophetic Prism here.
Yeah.
You know, it's usually it would be nothing, but now it's suddenly also a 4/2.
Raphael Levy, 4 cards in hand for him. I have a suspicion that Martin is sitting on a few removal spells here. We'll see if any of them are leveraged against the Snarethopter.
The problem with Levy's position is he can't really attack because racing against Marionette Master is really, really dangerous.
Skyswirl Harrier the play now for Alistair Martin, a 3/4 flyer for 5. Very, very efficient stats. And at common as well. This is a card that people are more than happy to pick up as it's going around the draft tables.
I would love to see Levy play Make Obsolete, give his opponent's creatures -1/-1, but it's usually not a card that we've seen in black main decks.
I know I was one of the people disappointed that Make Obsolete wasn't printed at common. It's not legal in Pauper. Black-blue teachings needing this kind of effect at instant speed, but unfortunately it's not forthcoming on Magic Online at least. Fairgrounds Warden the play now for Martin. He's going to take the Snare Thopter. I thought I saw the Fairgrounds Warden in the hands of Martin last turn, and I was curious to see why he didn't play it. Maybe it was a different card. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, but also there's a good reason to deploy your 3/4 flyer, see how the opponent responds, and then maybe there is a more threatening card to deal with.
Martin attacks, fearlessly taking the fight to the enemy now. Everything with a point of power getting in. Looks like Levy has nothing to say about that. A lonely night market lookout. The Frenchman's only permanent here. With 4 cards in hand, 3 of them lands. The last one, can't quite see it.
Night market lookout is has to be one of the worst cards to have on this battlefield.
Well, it's going to get in for 2. Levy's life total back up to 10 now.
Do you dare to block with your
Fairgrounds Warden?
Fairgrounds Warden? No.
Oh, and look at that. If one night market lookout wasn't good enough, how about 2, huh?
Raphael better play some really good vehicles very soon.
Back to Martin now. Looks like a tidy conclusion off the top of his deck. It was a black card at least. These players playing at a speed that makes it very difficult for us to spot the cards in their hands.
Also, no game results yet in this particular match.
Levy now, well and truly on the back foot. He's going to have to make a block here. Those servos are getting in for 1 point one way or another. That's the problem here. Even if you block them, you're still taking 1 from the Marionette Master.
Yeah, Levy wants to use his damage spell here.
Yeah, I think it's a Chandra's Pyrohelix by the look of things.
But the only real way to use it is to get rid of 2 servos. I mean, drawing these night market lookouts has just been horrendous for Levy.
It might even be a Furious Reprisal. So, Levy takes the damage. He's down to 2. Land, 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 concession. That's the way it goes. So Levy showing off that he just didn't have any action, and then, geez, still had all these, he said. Look at all these lands I've got.
That's
like a Lord Baron from the 15th century. Just lands on lands on lands. These guys are going to hit the sideboards, move on to game number 2.
You do this so your teammates know it wasn't your fault.
Ah, yes, a very important psychological edge to have over your teammates, of course. That's the real battle. You may sit and play a game of Magic against your opponent, but the real battle at the end of the day is the bickering about who was carried.
Why don't we commentate on another module against module war?
Oh, here we go. Absolutely. Yes, please. Please and thank you. Tomoharu Saito, the Japanese master, facing off against Dan Bernard. Tomoharu Saito, of course, a very, very impressive resume for him as well. 23 Grand Prix top 8s and 5 Pro Tour top 8s as well. 2 top 4s with teams as well. So he's certainly very, very comfortable working in a team environment.
He beat my team to reach the top 4 of Pro Tour Charleston. I still haven't forgiven him.
No, well, Simon, I think... I mean, you still haven't forgiven me for waking you up when you were snoring when we shared a bed last time. That was my fault, apparently.
So fabrication module for Saito. He can generate extra energy and then put +1/+1 counters on his creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, it's Deadlock Trap.
Yep.
And
a decoction module.
So Dan will get extra energy when creatures enter the battlefield.
And that's going to be really useful to power up that Deadlock Trap, which is a really, really nice way to lock down a problematic creature or even a Planeswalker.
Also just a great design, I think. Great use of the energy mechanic.
Mm-hmm. But this board stalled out with cards like the Seed Shaper here and a 5/5 Servant of the Conduit. So what's Saito going to do now? This fabrication module is still a, as we've said, little engine card here. Can gain Saito a mana, an energy, and then that energy triggers the first ability, which puts a +1/+1 counter somewhere. Nice place to dump your mana. We don't see a lot of mana sinks in this format, Zimon.
No, the module, that's one reason that makes why the modules are so powerful. Even though they don't look that way. And now it's really interesting. You saw Saito basically go through some options regarding blocks because he has this ability to activate his module to pump a creature. So the blocks are getting just more and more difficult for Dan, who is on 2 life.
Long Tusk Cub pumped up to a 4/4, which also brings the Fairground Trumpeter up to a 4/4 as well, thanks to its ability there. And here comes the latest version of Trigon Predator. Imperial Voyager, the 2/3 flyer for 1 green-blue. That might snag Bernand another energy. Looks like it's going to do exactly that.
Actually 2, which is another combo with Long Tusk Cub and the Trumpeter.
Imperial Voyager allowing Bernand to gain as much energy as damage was dealt to his opponent. So pump spell's working incredibly well with the Voyager if you're on the market for some extra energy here.
It seems like Dan's engine is a little bit more potent currently, but we'll see. We'll see if the life total discrepancy ultimately turns out to win it for Saito.
And Bernand here, you can see him triggering the decoction module, well, activating it and then triggering it with a 7 mana untap my Imperial Voyager here. And it's a nice one as well because it's grown the Log Tusk Cub and the Fairgrounds Warden Trumpeter, to 5/5s. So Saito figuring out what he can do here. We're going to see another activation of the module. Fabrication module gaining the Japanese superstar and energy. And also a +1/+1 counter. 2 points of damage needed here for Saito.
So difficult to get those through.
Yeah.
You don't have tramplers. Your opponent's creatures are huge. You're looking for removal, but it's not going to be enough. The best thing I see here is the fact that you have a 5/5 who could theoretically become a 6/6, so it's not the easiest block to make. But then there is a Deadlock Trap as the final card to the puzzle.
Harness Lightning now. Saito with 6 energy. Could do up to 9 damage to the... Can do up to 9 damage to the Cub. Does 5. And that's going to be enough to take care of the Long Tusk Cub. So Bernand's going to need to find another way to put +1/+1 counters on his creatures if he wants that Fairground Trumpeter to continue to grow.
Yeah, don't forget the trigger off of Harness Lightning, because it was an energy generating effect, even though you ultimately lost energy in the exchange.
You still got it in the first place, which allows another +1/+1 counter to be placed, this time on the Seed Sculptor. And the Imperial Voyager, a nice way for Bernand to keep up the pressure and continue to generate energy. Three more energy coming from this Whirler Virtuoso.
Yeah, very, very impressive synergies now on Dan's side of the board.
Yeah. Yeah, continuing to put the pressure on. We so often see this Whirler Virtuoso paired in the Teemo colours. Green, red, blue really taking advantage, or the green pairing with the red and the blue to take advantage of these cards.
Imperial Voyager and him having a really, really good synergy.
Oh, these gold cards are really, really pushed.
Yeah, it's interesting how Cloud Blazer, for example, looks like it's one of the most powerful because it just says draw 2 cards, and that's just really, really strong. But in all honesty, I think some of the more synergistic cards and earlier to arrive on the battlefield might actually be better.
Yeah, they've been really good. I think the other thing letting down Cloud Blazer is of course, the blue-white color combination. Not at its best. We've heard this. We've already seen this today. The blue-white decks haven't really been, I mean, extant is the first word I'd use, and then successful the second. But all the way through to Veteran Motorist and Voltaic Brawler, and I mean, let's not forget about Unlicensed Disintegration. This cycle of uncommons has meant that these gold cards have really made a big showing. Saito now. This time it's a Pima Outrider coming down as a 4-4 trample. He's looking to clog up the board as well.
A trampler is a nice addition. That much is for certain.
Look at this, returning the Whirl of Virtuoso as well. So Bernard with access to, geez, I mean, just 1 billion million energy per turn. 5 if you want to really, really split some hairs.
Two from each attack.
Yeah.
3 from playing his creature, but he also gets the bonus from the module. So it's really growing out of hand. The only thing he doesn't have right now is a way to put counters on his creatures. But even if he needed that for some reason, he could also bounce his Outrider instead of the Virtuoso. He really has all the options.
Yeah, I think the reason behind bouncing the Virtuoso and the Imperial Voyager is that they can be played and then bounced in the same turn. As we see now, up to 7 energy now for Bernard. And passes the turn. And again, mana sinks in this format, amazing to see just how powerful they can be. As the Servant of the Conduit helps to activate that fabrication module. We're going to see another +1/+1 counter dumped onto one of Saito's cards.
I think you have to make the Trampler as big as possible so that at least the Deadlock Trap has to target it.
No, says Tomohiro Saito. Incorrect, Simon Gertzen, he says, as he snags the +1/+1 counter on his Servant of the Conduit. Little Butlerina there, growing up to a 5/5. So Saito counting up, figuring out exactly what he's facing. These players really a grueling day for everyone here at the venue. These sealed events already running quite for a long time, but I mean in team sealed even longer, you would say. Obviously all the deck registration and all those other shenanigans that had to go on, and now we're deep into round 6 here. And still many hours to go.
Keep in mind a lot of our pros, the people that we like to cover every weekend that we are bringing you coverage, they are not used to playing 9 rounds on a GP day.
No, that's a great point, actually. I thought you were going to bring up the fact that some of them might be jet lagged, that maybe they've just flown in across the Atlantic, or, you know, they've maybe come in from Asia, like Tomohiro Saito making the trip from Japan. But no, that's a great point to consider. Most of these people are ready for the sleep-in special. They come in at 1 o'clock and they're ready to slay. But here, this has been a longer day than usual for them, having to show the endurance.
They are used to playing 6 or 7 rounds at a GP Saturday. And even though they won the first 3 rounds, which is so the buys didn't affect, the lack of buys didn't affect their win rate.
No, but it's still definitely going to affect their performance.
Yeah. And if you think you are unaffected by it, it's you're most likely wrong.
So Saito choosing to get in with all of his creatures, sending in with a pretty big attack here. Looks like Bernard has lined up some blocks. Going to chuck a whole lot of creatures in front of the Seed Sculptor here.
And you can see that he is blocking another creature with Rolo Virtuoso because of the decoction module that will allow him to bounce it.
Yeah, there's no harm in taking away that block there, or putting that block down there, as we're going to take the creature away. Away goes the Whirl of Virtuoso, just as expected and described by Simon Gertzen. That Seed Sculptor trades off with a bunch of creatures, leaving it behind 2 lonely Thopters.
Saito is really pushing, but this is not an easy game to win.
So once again, Bernard has the engine going. He's firing on all cylinders here, slowly chipping away at Saito's life total. But Saito has now a much better looking board than his opponent, for now.
From a team perspective, the match completely equal. Levy down a game, but Desani up a game. These players still in game 1.
may have heard some announcements in the ambient noise here in the tournament center. Obviously, the players getting seated for the next round. This is a replay, not coming at you, Cleopatra, live. But we'll be back with live coverage as soon as we're ready to begin here. Right now, though, it is Tomohiro Saito, the Japanese superstar, versus his opponent, Dan Burnand. Burnand with all the action this stage, but Saito, with a considerable board presence, gets in.
Dan surprising me here by not playing Vola Virtuoso.
No, interesting to see how he's going to do this. It looked like a block there with the Thopter. And the other one, so 2 Thopters going away there.
Well,
We've seen now a definite increase in the speed of the game. I think that's due to our producer, Rashad Miller, hitting a special button rather than the players being tapped on the shoulder here. Getting a blank stare of approval from Rashad. It is indeed the old fast forward button here.
He got a slow play warning and
and really took it very seriously.
Speeding up appropriately. If only that was the case.
In again with the Imperial Voyager here.
Yeah, but now Era of Innovation will also give Dan 3 extra cards, and he still has this Eternal Blocker. Plus, basically, the Deathlock Trap is not running out of energy.
So Era of Innovation down the bottom there, of course. Whenever you play an artifact, pay 1, you gain 2 energy counters, and then for 6 mana, you can sack it to draw 3 cards. It's going to fuel the fires very nicely here. And it's back to Burnand now, who makes a bunch of Thopters. Look at that, jeez. And then... Whoa, slow down, says Saito. Let's untap that. Let's just take this one step at a time. In 3 energy. In comes the Thopter. Trigger that. Pay 1. Gain more energy. Make another one. So every time, Burnand can essentially pay 1 mana for a Thopter, because he can gain 2 energy off the Era of Innovation and 1 energy from the fact that the Thopter comes in and the module there. So there we go. A bunch of Thopters entering the battlefield. It's back to Saito. Oh, it's back to Burnand now after flooding the board there. Nice little combo there from the Era of Innovation and the module. And look at this. Burnand picks up the team and in one neatly distributed pile takes out of the game. So there we go. We saw Saito unable to convert a considerable board advantage into a win there, and a very impressive stuff from his opponent, Dan Burnand. And I can tell you now, ladies and gentlemen, we are gearing up for round number 7. So a very quick update as to how things panned out. The match ended up going the way of Martin Burnand and Nguyen. They won in pretty convincing fashion. Dan Burnand picking up the 2nd win against Tomohiro Saito, winning in straight sets, and Alistair Martin also beating Raphael Levy, the French Hall of Famer, 2-0. So Saito, Levy, and Dazani, we're looking to lick their wounds and make sure they stay in at X and 1. But their opponents, congratulations, very well done indeed at X and O. My friends, it's time for us to step out of the booth. Matej Zadelkai and BDM joining you very shortly. Stick around, because our next round at GP Rotterdam is coming right up. My friends, don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
Up your game with Ultra Pro Magic the Gathering accessories. Find the best magic art on card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and more. Visit ultrapro.com to learn more and find a retailer near you.
Put your game to the test at a Grand Prix. These Magic celebrations are headlined by 2-day open tournaments with the best players in your region, as well as top Magic pros from around the world. Find an upcoming Grand Prix near you at magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix.